Welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving deep into Season 2 of HBO's gripping post-apocalyptic drama, The Last of Us. Based on the acclaimed video game series, this show has established itself as a cinematic force, offering both emotional storytelling and intense survivalist action. Let's break down what's new this season, how it builds on the past, and whether it still delivers the impact that made Season 1 so unforgettable. Season 1 of The Last of Us dropped us into urban ruins, with major sequences unfolding in cities like Boston, Kansas City, and Salt Lake City. It was a gritty and chaotic introduction to a world ravaged by a fungal outbreak that turns people into monstrous creatures. As the season progressed, the journey began to open up into more rural terrain, ultimately heading toward the wide landscapes of Wyoming. Season 2, however, flips that trajectory. It starts in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, a frontier-style settlement with horse patrols, stockades, and a close-knit community on constant alert. It feels like a western, at least for the first few episodes. But before long, the narrative returns to urban decay, this time to a hauntingly empty Seattle, where much of the new season takes place. From the beginning, The Last of Us has been praised not just for its horror elements, but for the way it invests in character development. As critic James Poniwazik noted in his Season 1 review, this is a show that refines the zombie genre, rather than breaking away from it. The infected are terrifying. The action is intense. But at its core, it's a story about human relationships, often sentimental, sometimes melodramatic, but always emotionally charged. Where most zombie dramas use personal relationships to set up emotional gut punches when someone inevitably dies, The Last of Us reverses that equation. Yes, the show features bloody, chaotic set pieces and close-quarters battles, and it certainly doesn't hold back on the gore. But it spends just as much, if not more, time on the emotional stakes. The creators, Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin, seem determined to make you care about these characters before throwing them into brutal scenarios. If the Hallmark Channel ever produced a zombie series, it might look like a toned-down version of The Last of Us. Emotional, tender, but still filled with tension. At the heart of the show remains the complex relationship between Joel and Ellie. Joel, played by Pedro Pascal, is a hardened survivor still haunted by the loss of his daughter during the early days of the outbreak. Ellie, portrayed with raw power by Ramsey, is the immune teenager he reluctantly agreed to escort across the country in search of a cure. By the end of Season 1, their bond had evolved into a surrogate family. But that bond is deeply tested in Season 2. We find them 5 years later, now residents of the Jackson community in Wyoming. On the surface, they are respected and valuable members of the settlement. But underneath, Ellie harbors resentment and suspicion. She's angry at Joel, not just because of typical teenage rebellion, but because she suspects, rightly, that Joel lied to her about what really happened at the end of their journey in Season 1. Those unresolved truths shape the narrative arc of Season 2. A new group, emerging from Salt Lake City, sets events in motion that will once again send Ellie on a dangerous journey, this time to Seattle. While the first season leaned heavily into the horrors of the infected, Season 2 pivots. Zombies are still present, of course, but their screen time is significantly reduced. They appear in one major, unforgettable battle sequence that blends elements of westerns, medieval warfare, and samurai cinema. But most of the new season is focused on human-on-human conflict, highlighting how society breaks down and how people try to rebuild it, for better or worse. This shift in focus creates a strange duality. On one hand, we have a strong, emotionally grounded chamber drama about grief, betrayal, and survival. On the other, we still get horror action sequences that demand high production value. But those two sides of the show don't always enhance each other. In fact, the emotional arcs can sometimes clash with the genre elements, making the show feel, at times, a little uneven, as though it's trying to do two very different things at once. Some viewers might find themselves missing the relentless pacing and simpler thrills of earlier seasons of The Walking Dead, which, for all its flaws, never apologized for being exactly what it was. Season 2 also widens its scope by introducing new faces. Isabella Merced joins as Dina, a close friend of Ellie's who becomes a major figure in this chapter of the story. Catherine O'Hara brings a sharp, emotionally layered performance as a therapist who continues her work despite the desolation around her. Jeffrey Wright appears as the leader of a Seattle militia, while Caitlin Dever plays a driven new antagonist. Surprisingly, both are underused in Season 2, but hints suggest their roles may become more important in Season 3, which HBO has already greenlit. Despite some narrative repetition and the occasional tonal imbalance, there is one reason Season 2 continues to work: Bella Ramsey. Now portraying a 19-year-old Ellie, Ramsey remains the emotional core of the series. She's less cheeky than she was at 14, but more layered, more hardened, and still completely captivating. Her performance cuts through the dense drama and brings something raw and real to every scene. Season 2 of The Last of Us doesn't reinvent itself. It follows a familiar path, offers few surprises in structure, and leans more heavily into human conflict than infected horror. But it remains a technically brilliant, emotionally sincere piece of television, driven by a phenomenal lead performance and an ambition to elevate the genre. If you're looking for a post-apocalyptic show that's equal parts character study and survival thriller, this season delivers. But if you were hoping for the genre to be revolutionized, Season 2 might leave you wanting more. Thanks for watching. If you've seen Season 2, let us know your thoughts in the comments. Was it everything you hoped for, or did it miss the mark? And if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more long-form reviews and analysis. Until next time, stay safe out there.